Monica Donovan had lived a peaceful life in her grandfather's century-old house, a delightful historic property that stood like an island of tradition in a sea of modern uniform homes. The house had been in her family for generations. Its walls, carrying the laughter and stories of those who had lived there before her, she treasured every creaky floorboard, every ivy-covered fence, and especially the vast backyard with its crystal-clear swimming pool. It was her retreat, a piece of her childhood, preserved in time, but one morning her peace was disturbed. The letter arrived in a thick, official-looking envelope with the homeowner association's emblem embossed in gold on the corner. Monica frowned, turning it over in her hands before tearing it open. The letter was formal, and in the kind of legal jargon designed to intimidate. Her eyes scanned the words quickly, her heart racing faster with each line. Dear Miss Donovan, it has come to our attention that your property, located at 183 Willow Creek Lane, falls within the jurisdiction of the Willow Creek Homeowner Association. Upon review of our historical documents, we have determined that the property was mistakenly left out of our governance when the community was originally created. In order to correct this oversight, we request that you sign the enclosed contract, officially bringing your residence under Homeowner Association regulation. As a member of the Homeowner Association, you will be subject to all community rules, including landscaping standards, architectural review policies, and shared neighborhood asset responsibilities. Please submit your signed acknowledgement within 14 days to avoid further action. Failure to comply may result in legal steps to enforce compliance. Sincerely, Graves, President, Willow Creek Homeowner Association. Monica read it again, then a third time, disbelief shifting into anger. The Homeowner Association wanted to claim her house to rewrite history and force her to follow their absurd rules. It was ridiculous. Her grandfather had built this house long before the Homeowner Association even existed. It had never been part of their control. Her fingers tightened around the paper as she sat down at the kitchen table, the old wooden chair groaning beneath her. She had heard horror stories about homeowner associations, power-hungry boards dictating the color of mailboxes, fining people for having the wrong kind of flowers in their garden, even tearing down sheds because they weren't permitted. But she had always considered herself safe. Her house was independent, it was private property, or at least it was supposed to be. Fuming, she grabbed her laptop and pulled up the county property records. It took her less than 5 minutes to confirm what she already knew. Her house had never been part of the Homeowner Association's control. There was no amendment, no overlooked documents. The Homeowner Association's claim was a blatant lie. Before she could hesitate, she picked up the phone and dialed the number at the bottom of the letter. The phone rang 4 times before a curt, self-important voice answered. This is Luke Graves. Mr. Graves, this is Monica Donovan. I just received your letter about my property, and there must be some kind of error. My house was never part of the Homeowner Association. It existed long before your entire development. A pause, then the voice on the other end changed to something sugary and condescending. Ah, Miss Donovan, I was expecting your call. I understand that this may come as a shock, but after reviewing our legal documents, we've determined that your property should have always been under Homeowner Association control. We're simply fixing an administrative oversight. Monica's grip on the phone tightened. A mistake. My grandfather built this house in 1921. Your Homeowner Association wasn't created until, what, 1998? That's nearly 80 years later. You don't get to suddenly claim my house. Well, Graves continued smoothly. Our legal team has looked into this matter thoroughly, and we have the power to bring properties into compliance when necessary. Monica let out a dry laugh. That's not how property ownership functions. You can't just decide that my land belongs to you. Graves sighed, as if speaking to a stubborn child. Miss Donovan, I strongly advise you to sign the contract and avoid unnecessary legal expenses. As a member of the Homeowner Association, you'll receive multiple benefits, including community facilities and increased property value. She nearly choked. What facilities? A half-broken swing set and a community pool full of yelling kids. I have my own pool. Thank you very much. There was a long silence. Then Graves' voice dropped into something icier. Miss Donovan, if you refuse to comply, you may find yourself facing severe penalties. The homeowner association has the right to enforce rules on all properties within our boundaries, and we take infractions very seriously. Monica could feel her anger rising, but she refused to let him intimidate her. I suggest you get yourself a better lawyer, Mr. Graves, because I'm not signing anything. And with that, she hung up. For the rest of the day, she tried to shake off the confrontation, but a deep worry settled in her stomach. The homeowner association couldn't really do anything, could they? She had the law on her side. But something about the confidence in Graves' voice told her this wasn't finished. Her fears were confirmed the very next morning when she stepped out onto her porch and found a bright yellow envelope stuck to her door. A violation notice: failure to comply with homeowner association landscaping rules. Grass exceeds the permitted length. Fine $250. Monica stared at it in disbelief. Her grass. It was winter. The grass wasn't even growing. Over the next few days, more notices arrived. Unauthorized mailbox design must be replaced with the homeowner association approved model. Fine $150. Improper fencing material violates community appearance standards. Fine $500. The violations were ridiculous, completely made up. And the worst part, every time she went outside, she noticed more and more neighbors wandering onto her property, treating her backyard and her pool like it belonged to them. She confronted one particularly smug-looking woman who was sunbathing in one of her lounge chairs. "What the hell are you doing?" Monica snapped. The woman barely looked up from her sunglasses. "Oh," Luke said, "the homeowner association finally took over this place. He told us the pool was available for community use." Monica felt her vision blur with fury. It was war, and she was going to make them regret it. Monica woke up to the sound of splashing, not the gentle ripple of water from the wind, or the occasional bird dipping its beak into the pool, but full-bodied, uninvited splashing. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. She knew what she would see before she even pulled back the curtain, but the reality still made her stomach knot. A group of people, her neighbors, were lounging in her backyard as if it were some public resort. Two kids were doing cannonballs into the pool, while a woman in a sun hat scrolled through her phone on one of her lounge chairs. A man, shirtless and sipping a beer, leaned against the edge of the pool like he belonged there. Monica's hands clenched into fists. This was beyond trespassing. This was a forceful takeover. She yanked on a sweatshirt, stomped down the stairs, and threw open the back door so hard it slammed against the frame. "Get out of my yard!" Every head turned, but instead of guilt, there was only mild surprise, like she was the one who had just barged into their area. "Oh," the woman in the sun hat said casually. "You're home." Monica could have screamed. She stormed over, stopping just short of the pool's edge. "What the hell are you all doing here?" The man with the beer gave her an easy shrug. "Relax, lady," Luke said. "The homeowner association completed the takeover. He told us the pool was now open for community use." Monica so red. Luke said, "Luke doesn't own this house." "I do. Get out before I call the cops." Now, there were reactions. Eye rolls, groans, a few muttered complaints. But one by one, they started gathering their towels and sandals slowly, as if she were troubling them. "Geez," one of the kids muttered. "It's just a pool." Monica pointed toward the gate. "Out now." The last of them shuffled away, dripping chlorinated water across her stone pathway. The man with the beer gave her a smirk as he stepped through the gate. "You should be thankful," he said. "Homeowner association pools always have long waiting lists." The gate clicked shut behind him, and Monica was left alone, fists clenched, shaking with rage. She needed a strategy. That afternoon, she drove straight to the county records office. The woman at the front desk barely glanced up as Monica approached. "How can I assist you?" "I need to pull the original property deed for 183 Willow Creek Lane," Monica said, keeping her voice steady and firm. The woman raised an eyebrow, but turned to her computer. "Identification, please." Monica handed it over and tapped her fingers against the desk as the woman typed. The seconds dragged by, but finally, the printer Word to life. A few moments later, the woman handed over a set of documents, crisp and official. Monica flipped through them, scanning over the details. There it was, clear as day. Her property line, the house, the yard, the pool, everything. All outside the homeowner association's boundaries, just as she knew it would be. Her next stop was the homeowner association office itself. She stormed through the glass doors, barely acknowledging the receptionist, before pushing straight into Luke Graves's office. He was sitting behind his desk, lazily typing on his laptop, but looked up with exaggerated surprise. "Miss Donovan," he said, smiling, "to what do I owe the honor?" Monica dropped the stack of documents onto his desk. "My property isn't part of your homeowner association, and it never has been." Luke didn't even glance at the papers. "Ah, yes," he said, leaning back in his chair. "We were anticipating you." Monica narrowed her eyes. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means," Luke said smoothly, "that I knew you'd come barging in here eventually, demanding to be excluded. But you see, Miss Donovan, the matter has already been settled." Monica crossed her arms. "The law states otherwise." Luke's smile didn't waver. "The law is adaptable." Monica stared at him. "That's not how the law functions." Luke chuckled, shaking his head. "You see, Monica, may I call you Monica? The homeowner association has considerable authority in this community. We make decisions in the best interest of everyone, and unfortunately, it would simply be unjust for one homeowner to enjoy facilities without contributing." Monica wanted to smack the smug look off his face. "I didn't ask for your facilities, and I don't want your damn homeowner association. I want you to leave me the hell alone." Outside dramatically, "You misunderstand. This is already in progress. The board voted to rezone your property into our jurisdiction." "A legal formality, really. The county records will show the change soon." Monica's stomach sank. "That's illegal." Luke just smiled. "It's unavoidable." Monica yanked the documents off his desk. "We'll see about that." She turned on her heel and stormed out, barely hearing him call after her, "I'd reconsider that pool situation if I were you. People will always use what's accessible." That night, Monica sat at her kitchen table, staring at her pool through the window. The water gleamed under the porch lights, undisturbed, at least for now. Luke had made one thing clear. He wasn't giving up. He would keep pushing, keep trespassing, keep claiming what wasn't his. But if he thought she was just going to surrender and let them take her home, he was dead wrong. Monica pulled out her laptop and started researching. She read horror stories of homeowner associations seizing properties, people losing their homes over fabricated fines, endless lawsuits designed to drain the real owners into submission. She needed to act immediately. Her eyes flickered back to the pool. An idea forming. They wanted to use it. They assumed it was theirs. Fine. She'd ensure they never wanted to use it again. Monica spent the next 2 days collecting supplies. If the homeowner association wanted to treat her pool like a community attraction, she'd ensure no one ever set foot in it again. She drove to a chemical supply store on the outskirts of town, a place that served both industrial clients and farmers needing specialized treatments for their crops. She walked in, acting like she belonged, scanning the shelves until she found exactly what she was looking for. An industrial-strength pool dye designed to indicate contamination. In large water sources, it was meant for professional use, highly concentrated and nearly impossible to remove. Once poured into a pool, it would stain everything: the water, the tiles, and most importantly, anyone who dared to swim in it. She picked up 2 canisters. The cashier, an older man with thick glasses, barely looked up as he rang up the purchase. "You got a lot of pool to cover?" he asked casually. Monica forced a smile. "Something like that." She paid in cash, tossed the containers into the trunk, and drove home, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. That night, under the cover of darkness, she walked out onto her back patio. The pool sat still and undisturbed, the reflection of the moon shimmering on the surface. She glanced around to make sure no one was watching, though she doubted the homeowner association patrolled her yard at night. Then, without hesitation, she unscrewed the first canister and tipped it over. Thick, vivid dye gushed into the water, curling into dark tendrils before spreading like ink in a glass of water. Within seconds, the pool transformed into an eerie, neon green disaster. She emptied the second canister for good measure. By morning, the water was a radioactive shade of green, thick and murky, with no trace of its former clarity. It looked unnatural, hazardous, like something that had been sitting stagnant for ages. Monica smiled. And then she waited. It didn't take long. By noon, she heard voices in the yard, familiar, arrogant voices. She stayed inside, peering through the curtains as the usual group of homeowner association freeloaders strutted. And what the hell happened? A woman? Gasped the man with the beer. One of the regulars stood at the edge of the pool, frowning. What the? It wasn't like this yesterday. A teenage boy tossed a rock into the water. It disappeared into the green depths without a trace. The woman in the sun hat sniffed. Probably just some algae bloom. Pools need upkeep, you know. Monica bit her lip to keep from laughing. Then came the moment she had been waiting for. One of the kids, probably around 8 or 9, shrugged and jumped in the second he surfaced. His mother let out a scream. The boy stared at his arms, confused. His skin had turned a sickly green, the dye clinging to him like a second layer of flesh. What's wrong? He asked, looking down at himself. Oh, my God. The woman shrieked, get out. The panic spread like wildfire. The man with the beer took a step back, suddenly cautious, while the teenage boy cursed and pulled out his phone to take a picture. The woman in the sun hat clutched her chest, eyes wide with horror. The kid scrambled out of the pool, dripping green water onto the stone patio. It won't come off, he wailed, rubbing his arms furiously. Monica had read the label carefully. Once the dye touched human skin, it would take at least a week to fade. You ruined your pool, the man with the beer muttered. Monica decided it was time to make an entrance. She threw open the back door and stepped outside, arms crossed. My pool? She said, pretending innocence. I thought it was a community pool. Every head turned toward her, but no one spoke. The woman, who had been sunbathing a few days ago, took a cautious step away from the green-stained child. What the hell did you do? The beer man finally demanded. Monica raised an eyebrow. Oh, I maintain it just like the homeowner association keeps insisting I should. I treated it with a special industrial grade cleaner. Kills bacteria, algae, and any unauthorized swimmers. She let the words hang in the air, watching their reactions. The woman in the sun hat turned pale. Wait, is it toxic? Monica just smiled. That did it. The group scattered, grabbing their towels and bags as they fled toward the gate. The green-stained child sobbed as his mother half-dragged him away. The man with the beer muttered something under his breath, shooting Monica a dark look before following the others. The gate slammed shut, and just like that, her pool was hers again. But Monica knew this wasn't over. The homeowner association wasn't the type to back down quietly. And Luke Graves definitely wasn't the type to let a power move like this go unchallenged. Sure enough, the first retaliation came that very night. It started with an email, a formal notice from the homeowner association's legal team stating that Monica had recklessly contaminated a shared community resource and was now subject to a fine for environmental damages. Monica scoffed. By the next morning, they had intensified. A bright red notice was taped to her door declaring that her pool had been deemed a health risk and that the homeowner association had the authority to drain it immediately for the safety of the community. They were trying to erase the evidence. Monica wasn't allowing it. She made 2 calls, one to her lawyer and one to the local news station. By that afternoon, a reporter was standing in her front yard, with a cameraman asking her to repeat what she had just told them. You're saying the homeowner association is falsely claiming possession of your property? The reporter asked, microphone extended. Monica nodded. They're trying to pressure me into signing over my land, and when I refused, they started trespassing, issuing fake fines, and now this. Declaring my private pool a shared resource and threatening to drain it. The reporter turned to the camera. We reached out to the homeowner association president for a response, but he refused to speak with us. Monica smirked. Of course, he did. By the time the segment aired that evening, her inbox was flooded with messages, Some from lawyers offering free guidance, others from people who had been through similar fights with their homeowner associations. And then there were the comments on the news station's website, "I do the same thing," entitled "People got what they deserved." She should have added itching powder too. Homeowner association corruption is out of control. Hope she sues them. Monica knew this wasn't the end, but now, the homeowner association wasn't just battling her, they were battling everyone watching. Monica woke up to a noise outside, a deep mechanical humming. She sat up quickly, heart racing. Something was happening in her yard. Throwing on a hoodie, she rushed to the window and froze. Two men in homeowner association branded uniforms stood at the edge of her pool, their expressions blank as they uncoiled a long industrial hose from a large, vibrating pump. The hose dangled over the water surface like a waiting serpent. They were draining her pool, her private pool. Monica's breath came fast and sharp. For a moment, she couldn't move. This was beyond fines, beyond warnings. This was direct action. They weren't even attempting to conceal it. The homeowner association was actually trying to remove the evidence of what she had done. Fury surged through her veins. She grabbed her phone and stormed outside. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the early morning air. The two men barely reacted. One of them, a burly guy with a sunburned face, glanced at her with practiced indifference. "Ma'am, we're just following instructions." Monica's fists clenched. "Whose instructions?" The man pulled a folded paper from his back pocket and handed it to her. It was an official-looking document stamped with the homeowner association's logo, listing her address: "Notice of emergency drainage due to hazardous conditions and contamination concerns. The Willow Creek Homeowner Association has determined that the swimming pool located at 183 Willow Creek Lane poses a risk to the community and must be neutralized immediately. Failure to comply will result in escalating fines and potential legal action." The bottom of the notice was signed in arrogant, looping cursive. "Luke Graves, Homeowner Association President." Monica crushed the paper in her hand. "This is unlawful," she hissed. The second worker, a weary guy with a clipboard, finally spoke up. "Ma'am, this is an emergency order. It falls under the homeowner association's control." Monica laughed sharply. "Control over what? My private property? My pool?" The burly man gave a careless shrug. "Homeowner association policies, ma'am." Monica's grip tightened around her phone. She could call the cops, but she had seen how those calls played out in homeowner association nightmare stories. The police rarely intervened in civil conflicts, especially when a homeowner association claimed they had authority. She could yell at them, but they didn't care. They were just following instructions. So instead, she did the only thing she could do. She lifted her phone and started recording. "You're trespassing," she said, voice firm as she aimed the camera directly at their faces. "You have no legal right to drain this pool. You're destroying private property under false claims." The burly man frowned. "Ma'am, put the phone down." Monica ignored him. She walked around them, making sure to get close-ups of the pump, the hose, the trickle of greenish water already leaking onto the pavement. "I'll be sending this footage to my lawyer," she continued, "and to the news station that covered this story last night." The weary guy turned pale. The burly one shifted uneasily. Monica pressed forward. "If you touch that pump, you'll be personally responsible for damages. I will sue you both for trespassing, destruction, and vandalism of private property." The weary guy hesitated, then turned to his co-worker. "Maybe we should call Luke." "We don't call Luke," the burly one muttered. Monica took another step toward them. "I suggest you do call him right now, because the moment that pump turns on, you're going to be the ones paying for it." The two men exchanged glances. Then, without another word, the weary guy pulled out his phone and stepped away to make the call. Monica crossed her arms, watching them like a hawk. It took less than a minute before he returned, his face tense. "Pack it up," he muttered to the burly guy. Burly grunted, looking frustrated, but he shut off the pump and started rolling up the hose. Monica didn't move until the last piece of equipment was packed away, and the two men were climbing back into their homeowner association marked truck. The moment the doors shut, she marched right up to the driver's side window. "Tell Luke," she said, voice ice cold, that if he sends anyone onto my property again, I'll have him charged with criminal trespass. The driver didn't respond. He just threw the truck into reverse and backed out of her driveway. Monica stood there, heart racing, watching them disappear down the street. She had won this round, but Luke had escalated, and she had no doubt he'd try again. She spent the rest of the morning strengthening her property line. The homeowner association had gotten bold, too bold. If she wanted to safeguard what was hers, she needed to make sure no one could just walk onto her land again. First, she locked the gate leading to the backyard, replacing the flimsy old latch with the heavy-duty chain and padlock. Then she installed security cameras, real ones this time, not just the fake replicas she had set up a few years ago. She positioned them at key entry points, the front porch, the backyard, and most importantly, overlooking the pool. By the time she was done, sweat clung to her skin, but she felt something she hadn't in days. Control. No more unexpected incidents. No more uninvited intruders. Let the homeowner association try to pull something again. This time she'd be ready. Her phone buzzed later that afternoon. It was an email from the Willow Creek Homeowner Association Legal Department. Her stomach clenched as she opened it. Subject: notice of non-compliance and pending legal action. Miss Donovan, it has come to our attention that you have taken unauthorized measures to prevent necessary homeowner association mandated community safety actions. Your continued refusal to comply is in direct violation of Section 14(3) of the Homeowner Association Governance Agreement, which states that all properties within homeowner association boundaries must follow emergency safety orders issued by the board. Failure to comply will result in legal consequences including, but not limited to, mandatory property reassessment, homeowner association enforced corrective actions, and financial penalties. Please submit your compliance confirmation within 48 hours. Failure to respond will result in further legal escalation. Sincerely, Willow Creek Homeowner Association Legal Team. Monica clenched her teeth. They were really doing this. They were going to pressure and pressure until she either surrendered or went bankrupt fighting them. She exhaled slowly, forcing herself to think she had choices. First, she could hire stronger legal support. The homeowner association was bluffing on most of this, but she needed someone who could tear through their nonsense with real legal power. Second, she could go public again. Spread the story even further. Homeowner associations thrived on fear and silence. But if she made this big enough, they'd have to retreat. And third, she could strike them where it truly hurt. She smiled. Maybe it was time for Luke Graves to experience his own tactics. Monica sat at her kitchen table, staring at the homeowner association's email. The words legal consequences and mandatory property reassessment were bolded, designed to scare, but fear had lost its grip on her days ago. If Luke Graves and his homeowner association supporters wanted a battle, she'd give them one. She took a deep breath and made her first move, calling her lawyer. Monica, I was expecting your call. Mark Reynolds, her attorney, said with a dry chuckle. They are threatening legal action, Monica said, keeping her voice firm. They're claiming I'm in violation of their governance agreement and demanding compliance within 48 hours. Mark sighed. They're bluffing. They don't have jurisdiction over your property, and they certainly don't have the authority to enforce emergency orders on private land. But I'll draft a formal cease and desist letter. That should make them hesitate before trying anything else. Good, Monica said. Because I don't just want to stop them, I want to strike back. Mark paused. I like the sound of that. What do you have in mind? Monica smirked. I need to know everything Luke Graves has done wrong. Homeowner association corruption cases, financial mismanagement, maybe even fraud. If there's anything suspicious about him, I want to uncover it. Mark chuckled. I'll see what I can find. But be careful, Monica. People like Graves don't like being exposed. I don't care what he likes, she said, steel in her voice. He tried to steal my home. Now I'm going to bring his empire down. 2 days later, she had exactly what she needed. Mark had provided a folder filled with proof, more than she ever imagined. Luke Graves wasn't just a power-hungry homeowner association president, he was a scammer. The homeowner Association's financial records showed misused funds, unexplained fees, and special assessments that had disappeared into thin air. Homeowners had been fined for violations that didn't exist, their money diverted into maintenance projects that were never completed. One particularly incriminating document showed that Graves had personally approved a major construction contract paid for with homeowner association funds to a company owned by his brother-in-law. Fraud, embezzlement, financial corruption. Monica grinned. This was it, the weapon she needed to bring him down. That night, she went public. She sent the documents to the same news station that had covered her battle with the homeowner association. She contacted a local watchdog group that specialized in exposing corrupt homeowner associations, and just for good measure, she uploaded everything to a public forum where frustrated homeowner association residents across the country would see it. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. By morning, the news station had picked up the story, running a segment titled "Homeowner Fights Back Against Homeowner Association" and exposes fraud at the top. They had even managed to get a response from Luke Graves himself. "This is a baseless attack," Graves said stiffly, standing in front of the homeowner association office, cameras flashing in his face. "Miss Donovan has a personal grudge against this community and she's spreading false information. Our financial records are fully compliant with regulations." The reporter didn't look convinced. "Then you won't mind if we request an independent review of the homeowner association's funds?" Graves turned pale. Monica laughed when she saw the clip. The walls were closing in on him. The real blow came later that afternoon. A mass email went out to every homeowner association member in the neighborhood. Subject: urgent. Homeowner Association President under investigation. Dear residents, in light of recent accusations, the Willow Creek Homeowner Association Board will be conducting an internal review of financial records and governance policies. We take all concerns seriously and will provide updates as necessary. Effective immediately, President Luke Graves is temporarily stepping down from his position pending further examination. Sincerely, Willow Creek Homeowner Association Board of Directors. Monica's phone blew up with messages from neighbors, some shocked, some thrilled. "Did you see this? Holy crap, Monica, you actually got him. I bet Luke is losing his mind right now." Monica smiled. Luke Graves was out, and the best part? He had done it to himself. 2 weeks later, the homeowner association was in chaos. Without Graves, the board struggled to regain control, but the damage was already done. Residents began openly challenging fines. Lawyers got involved. The homeowner association's finances were officially under scrutiny. More and more people came forward with stories of homeowner association abuse, and by the end of the month, the county had stepped in to investigate. Monica's property officially declared outside homeowner association control. No more fake fines, no more violation notices, no more trespassing. The battle was over. Monica sat by her pool, sipping a drink, watching the water ripple under the sunlight. The neon green dye had long since faded, but the memory of what had happened remained. She had fought. She had won. And the homeowner association? They would think twice before interfering with her again. She leaned back in her chair, smiling. Let them try. She was prepared.